guys, it's Sam, and for those of you that have been on my channel for a while, this is Banks, the kitten that I got at the beginning, the start of my channel. He's a big giant galoot now, and he's tripled his weight since I got him, so he's not a baby anymore. And yes, my cat getting bigger while also being cute is relevant to the topic today because I'm going to talk about how my bookish habits have changed since starting YouTube. So I got started thinking about this because a few weeks ago I went into Barnes & Noble for the first time since starting YouTube. I don't have a Barnes & Noble close by in my town. I usually end up buying books online because it just ends up being cheaper, and I don't have a physical bookstore here in town. But one thing that I noticed when I went into Barnes & Noble was that I recognized nearly every book on the shelf. I knew whether I wanted to pick it up, I knew if it was on my TBR, I knew who had recommended it, I knew if I would like it or not. I recognized nearly all of them. That's important because before starting Booktube, I had no idea about the majority of books on the shelf out at any given time. I didn't know what was a new release, I didn't recognize the majority of the authors, I really had no idea. So when I was younger, I used to get books out of the school library, but after high school and during college and stuff, this is kind of how my book buying and reading experience went. I base the majority of my reading off of recommendations from friends. I only have one good friend who reads on a regular basis, and her reading has actually fallen off the map recently, and I'm trying to get her back in it, but I would just get recommendations from her. So she is the person that actually recommended Twilight to me. Yes, I read Twilight. We all pretty much read Twilight. Let's move on. So I read Twilight. So after Twilight, we wanted to both fill the void of paranormal romance in our life, and we wanted to pick up another series, so we actually picked up the Mary Gentry series. Mary Gentry is written by the same author who does the Anita Blake series I've talked about before, Laurel K. Hamilton. So at the time, there was only about 3 or 4 Mary Gentry books out, so after the Mary Gentry books ran out, we turned to the Anita Blake series, which I have mentioned before. So many books, there's like 20 up here, and after that, I just reread those books. I would just keep rereading them. I would buy each one individually until the series ran out, and then I kept rereading the same books. So a lot of you guys reread Harry Potter all the time. I reread Anita Blake. And that actually relates to another point. I used to always buy mass market paperbacks. These are all mass market paperbacks, besides the one which I just couldn't find a mass market paperback. But now, I really only want trade paperbacks. I enjoy them more. They have the nice pretty covers that I enjoy. They're easier to read. I just love them, and I really, really hate buying mass market paperbacks now. Before, I really didn't know that there was any difference. I didn't know that the names for both. I had no idea. I just went and picked up the book that I wanted, usually the cheapest, so mass market paperback. So as far as book buying, if I were to go into a bookstore before Booktube, I would just aimlessly walk around, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I would usually still be in the YA or fantasy section, but I would just pick up random covers, look at them, not really know where to go for recommendations, just kind of be like, should I read this? I didn't want to waste my money on a book that I wasn't going to read or not going to enjoy, and I would put it back down. I barely ever bought books from physical bookstores or even online. Like, I never knew where to go, I didn't know about Goodreads at the time, and I just really never bought a ton of books unless they were recommended to me, which I didn't get a lot of recommendations back then. Now, as I said before, I can walk to the bookstore, I recognize the majority of the covers, the majority of the books are on my TBR, and I could definitely go and pick out a ton of books that I wanted at any given time. Another thing is I used to only buy a book series one at a time. So I'd read the first book, then go buy the second book if I enjoyed it, and so forth. As some of you know, that no longer happens, and I typically pick up the entire series before even reading the first book. For example, the Shades of Milk and Honey series, the Shadow and Bone series, and the Eon duology, just to name a few, and ones that are really easily accessible right now. And that is actually for a few reasons. I realized when starting Booktube that I just wanted to have the whole series available to me to marathon the series. I enjoy marathoning series now. I'd rather just pick a book up and read the next one and read the next one and not really have to stop. I really enjoy being able to read a whole series in a whole month, like I did with Shatter Me last month. So before with a series, I would pick up the first book, read it, forget about the series, and then just time would go on and I'd eventually pick up the second book and so on. I never kept track of the new release dates, I never knew when the sequels were coming out. I had no idea. I was missing out on a whole nother world. And that leads me to my next point. I would take a lot of breaks between reading. So like I said, I would pick up one book, whether it was from a series or a standalone, read it all the way through in about, 1 or 2 days, and then not pick up a book for a while because I didn't have them readily available like I do now. So I would just not know what to pick up next, I wouldn't have any recommendations, and it would be months between books. Now there's very rarely a day wait between books. And that is because I really didn't have any internal or external pressures to read more, and I'm really glad that I have that now. That's why one of the great things about Booktube, and one of the things I love so much about it, is it does motivate me to read more. There's all these books that I constantly hear about, whether it's from hauls, or TBRs, or wrap-ups, and I always have something that I want to read, so I'm always pushing myself to read more, read faster, and get to all these different books that I want to read, and I'm really enjoying all of my reading experiences. So those are just some of the things that have changed for me since starting Booktube as far as reading and book buying habits. Comment down below and let me know some of the things that have changed since you discovered Booktube. I would love to hear some of the different ways that we kind of tweak our habits because of this crazy and wonderful thing called Booktube. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!